Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we are starting the Stanley Parable today. Although technically this is the second episode in the series, because we did the Stanley Parable demonstration, that's right, the demo, which is very full of unique content, so I'd recommend you go watch that first. Now if you watched that, it probably didn't explain a lot to what's going to go on here, and I'm very much confused about how much I should explain. I know practically everything about the Stanley Parable already. And I could spoil things, I could get to different endings, which is a small spoiler to say that there are many different endings to this game. I could get to them very fast, as soon as we start the game, but I think for the first episode, let's just play, pretend to be ignorant, and play as we would normally play any other game. It is also worth mentioning that you should take this game from the perspective that a lot of it is commentary on video games itself. So, keep an eye out for that. And of course, the reason why we're doing this series is as a response to the game we just wrapped up, Bastion, which had an interesting mechanic of the narrator commenting on what the player was doing, and the Stanley Parable is going to do the same thing in a very different style. So go check out Bastion. That's all done. Go find the playlist and watch it all through. This series is not going to be very long in the number of releases, but it might be very long in the duration of episodes. The demo took 45 minutes, so it's possible that we have 15 to 20 45-minute episodes, and that'll be it. Unfortunately, this game doesn't really have a great place to break up. There's no real levels or anything, which is another spoiler. So we're going to go from beginning to end of each run. And I guess that's all we need to know now before we begin the game. One thing always, I ask people to turn off any ad blockers, help me make a career, or whitelist me, either one works. Okay, we're ready to begin. Let's begin the game. Let's play the Stanley Parable. The end is never the end. Loading. The end is loading. Alright, this load feels very much like the first load when I did the demo. So by the time I got around to recording the demo, the load had sped up significantly, but that doesn't really help much to have a loading section that gets faster the more it happens. I want the loading to be non-existent always. And why does it really have to load that much? It knows exactly what we're going to be doing, starting a new game. There was no continue option. There's no other thing we could be doing. I believe this game is made on the source engine, same as Half-Life and Portal. It seems like that. I'm almost certain that's true because I've seen a mod where they put Portal in this. And like most loading screens, it just jumps up at random intervals because the loading bars have nothing to do with reality, really. Boy, I would love like an SSD array, RAID array, and RAID 0 as fast as possible. But in some games that still wouldn't get rid of loading.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
You know, this commentary on video games actually is something I've been thinking about recently. On just how much I personally have played video games over my life, and how it does kind of feel like I was just made for it in the just vast amount of video games I've played. And I see other video game players, or people who are certainly gamers and fans and all of that, but they have other interests. They watch a lot of other TV, they watch sports, they go to sports events, they play actual sports. And maybe I have a hang up about sports, but they hang out with their friends, they go to the mall. A couple of decades ago they would go out to the mall, and that's just stuff that I never had time to do. I was like 110% video games. So I kind of do relate to Stanley. Like, if a video game told me to sit in front of it and push buttons, which all video games really do, I follow it, and I'm happy. It's not soul rendering, as he said, or soul crushing. Anyways, let's begin playing.
Stanley stood for a long time in one spot. It's part of a game. He likes to see how long he can go without dying. So far, he's doing excellent. And if he just stays right where he is, I'm sure he'll keep up that good momentum. Let's observe the genius at work.
Let's see, what time is it? I can't read these clocks. It looks like 11:25. Alright, so we're just gonna play this naturally, like we don't know anything. Can't open that door.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Alright, you're supposed to go to the meeting room. Here's the open door. I guess the meeting room is this way. Picture of a mountain. Can't see outside. I have a little bit of a problem with games doing this. Use a skybox. Come on. Don't just make it blindingly white. It's never blindingly white outside of a building. Well, there's some doors open over there. But that one's not open. So you're gonna be given an employee number and an office which is the exact same employee number. That really doesn't work. That does not work at all. That's very silly. Alright.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Really? Okay. I'm just gonna listen to it. Hey, Chuck! People who watch the demo will get that, and people who are fans of Maniac Mansion will get that. So, it said we entered the door on the left. Let's go to the door on the left. Now we can't go back. Surprise, surprise. Meeting room. We're looking for the meeting room. Alright. Meeting room, this looks like a
Yet
meeting.
there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Let's see, meeting scheduled. Do not alter without consulting whiteboard manager. R.I.P. Franz. What to do about 4:32? Targets: push for R&D of new coffee machine. Get Chris out of the broom closet. Hire someone to synergize papers. Papers are too synergized. Fire paper guy. Hire somebody to fire the paper synergizing guy who moved my desk. Standard. Can't read it. Tomorrow complete 2 dues. You would never write on any meeting fire somebody. That would create legal problems. Never write it on a whiteboard. You probably wouldn't even really write it in those terms on internal documents or emails to superiors or coworkers. What are your dreams for the future? Tips for not getting fired. Talk less, do unbelievably amazing work all the time, every day with no expectation of promotion or recognition. How to solve a dispute with a coworker. Let it ball up inside you, take out passively aggressively, resent coworkers for not supporting you more. Using slides to assure employees that everything is okay. If you're the type of person that likes meetings in your job, well, then you probably don't really actually do anything.
Stanley just stood there doing nothing at all. He seems to think I have nothing better to do with my time than to sit around and describe every fascinating little detail of his inability to do anything. This is why Stanley and I are on such good terms.
So apparently he doesn't have anything better to do. So I'm looking around and he's commenting on the fact that I'm taking way too long. Monetize, free to play, yeah. Please don't. Broom closet. Yay, a door that finally opens.
Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track.
Well, I would say there's nothing there.
There was nothing here. No choice to make, no path to follow, just an empty broom closet. No reason to still be here.
I'm just gonna keep annoying him with this.
It was baffling that Stanley was still just sitting in the broom closet. He wasn't even doing anything. At least if there was something to interact with, he'd be justified in some way. As it is, he's literally just standing there doing sweet FA.
Just keep irritating him.
Are you really still in the broom closet? Standing around doing nothing? Why? Please offer me some explanation here. I'm genuinely confused. You do realize there's no choice or anything in here, right? If I'd said Stanley walked past the broom closet, at least you would have had a reason for exploring it to find out. But it didn't even occur to me because literally this closet is of absolutely no significance to the story whatsoever. I never would have thought to mention it. Maybe to you this is somehow its own branching path. Maybe when you go talk about this with your friends, you'll say, "Oh, did you get the broom closet ending? The broom closet ending was my favorite." I hope your friends find this concerning.
Let's just see how...
Stanley was fat and ugly and really, really stupid. He probably only got the job because of a family connection. That's how stupid he is. That or with drug money. Also, Stanley is addicted to drugs and hookers.
Now I'm really getting on his
Well,
nerves.
I've come to a very definite conclusion about what's going on right now. You're dead. You got to this broom closet, explored it a bit, and were just about to leave because there's nothing here, when a physical malady of some sort shut down your central nervous system and you collapsed on the keyboard. Well, in a situation like this, the responsible thing is to alert someone nearby so as to ensure that your body is taken care of before it begins to decompose. Hello? Anyone who happens to be nearby? The person at this computer is dead. He or she has fallen prey to any number of your countless human physiological vulnerabilities. It's indicative of the long-term sustainability of your species. Please remove their corpse from the area and instruct another human to take their place at the computer, making sure they understand basic first-person video game mechanics and filling them in on the history of narrative tropes in video gaming, so that the irony and insightful commentary of this game is not lost on them. All right, when you've done that, just step out into the hallway.
See if I can irritate him some more. Broom closet. There's actually rarely any use for a broom in most offices since they put down cheap carpeting and prefer to use either carpet cleaning machines or vacuum cleaners more often.
Ah, second player. It's good to have you on board. I guarantee you can't do any worse than the person who came before you. You too? Unbelievable. I'm at the mercy of an entire species of invalids. Perhaps there's a monkey nearby you can hand the controls to. A fish? Fungus? Look, you can hammer out the details. I'm not particularly picky. I'll just be waiting for when you're ready to pick up the story again.
Is he gonna say anything else? Player 2. Well, it looks like I might have exhausted this line of dialogue. Yep, it doesn't look like I'm gonna convince him to say anything new. So let's continue. We were going upstairs to see the boss.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Executive bathroom. It's very far too elaborate to decorate an office like this. You're just gonna breed resentment in your employees. What does this say? Can't read it. Anyways, let's go.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this. What dark secret was being held from him? What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
So the narrator just tells us the code. Talk about...
Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845.
Now notice when you get near the keypad, it gives you a dot. This is really the only way you could input.
2845.
Is because when the mouse is missing, it's missing for me also. So I couldn't possibly aim at the numbers and get it right without multiple tries.
But it turns out that the panel's emergency override kicked in, and the door just opened all by itself. And Stanley got the hell along with the story. Well, whoop-de-doo.
Okay. And that lifted this wall. Nice. Insulation. Fabrication. Generator, air conditioner. Wire. Elevator. Down we go. Loading. The Stanley Parable is not a long enough game to require loading. Is this just a thing about Source games? Whenever you get in an elevator, you have to go to a loading screen? Is it built right in? Default cannot be overridden?
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
Maybe that's a commentary of loading in elevators, because as a trope in video games, there's really no reason why that should have loaded. No reason whatsoever. We have all these doors that are closing off. As soon as the door closes and locks you out, it should be unloaded. Stanley Parable is slightly an older game, so maybe they didn't have the...
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Maybe they just didn't have the ability or the resources to develop level caching. Well, this one says escape, but we're listening to what he says in the story. Hello? A big button with a light bulb. I guess it turns the lights on.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
Here's an interesting trope. You have this one desk with one button that turns on the lights. You have to walk over here to another desk, set of desks to do other things. Here's another button.
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
So there's an error screen there. I wish I had like a flying ability, so I could fly towards them. So there's 428 right there. Isn't that us? So I think that's our office. That would make sense. I think that was our number. But I wish I could fly around. That's the thing I like about Minecraft. At any point I can just break the system and fly around and get a better look. zoom in. I don't think there's any zoom in buttons here.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly?
Notice there's a couple of employees who have been fired. How could you fire somebody that you're mind controlling? The mind control didn't work?
No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! It was unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world?
Notice that elevator didn't require a loading screen. So if you're referring to the characters that video gamers play as, yes, they are being mind controlled by the player.
But
always.
here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy, or sad, or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
Okay, so how am I supposed to dismantle the controls once and for all? Facility power. Just see a bunch of colored buttons, and inside the colored buttons looks like some pictures that I can't really see them. They're glowing too brightly. Let's see. Console disabled. I don't even think there's a run button. So I've found a 4 and I've found a 3 button. Found the 5 button. That's the facility. There's 4 up there. So I could do 1, 2. And then I'd have to run all the way, generously speaking, this way, and then up there, and then over there is 5. So I think we've seen everything in this room. Let's go check the facility power. Mind controls awaiting input.
And when at last he found the source of the room's power, he knew it was his duty, his obligation, to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for.
So, I can't read that. I can't read that. Can't jump down there. Danger, electric shock risk. Well, turn it off or turn it on? I suppose it would only make sense to turn it on. What's going on?
Blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over? Yes. He had won. He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him, for it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door. Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
Really? All I did was listen to the instructions of the game, and it took me to one of the best endings immediately. All I had to do was listen to the game, and it missed a lot of content, which, okay, a lot of the content are the different endings, but I really wasn't aware that it was going to take us to this ending. That could easily be the best ending of the entire series. And that's its own little commentary on video games, isn't it? If you just do exactly what the game tells you to do, you will very easily get to the best ending. Almost always. Sometimes games are made a little difficult. Certainly takes more skill than the Stanley Parable requires, because there's no skill required for this. And so that's surprising. That's an interesting commentary. It's just, I hadn't thought about that. I really hadn't thought that we were gonna get the best ending on the first try. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't stick with this series. It's gonna be pretty short. There's still, I would say, at least a dozen more endings that we will get to. And as you can see, after you get to an ending, you start at the beginning. So next episode, we will be starting right here.
Stanley stood for a long time in one spot.
And
it's part of a game. He likes to see how long...
We'll stand right here and we'll start the game right from where we are going. We won't... I'll try not to even exit out. I'll record the next episode. See you next time. As always, I ask that you like this video, share it, subscribe to my channel, comment if you want to, and watch every second of my videos. All of that helps me out. If you want to support me through fan funding, you can click on my name, Rydo. On the right there will be a blue button that says support this channel. Any amount you donate whatsoever will be greatly appreciated. If you want to follow me on Twitter or Google Plus or Steam or Battle.net, follow or friend me on those services. All that information is down below in the description. Thank you for watching. Oh, one more thing I wanted to mention is that that happy ending was very Portal-esque, Portal 2-esque. In the ending of Portal 2, and that is a series I've done Portal and Portal 2, so go look at my playlist, look at my other games, and watch that coverage too. Thanks. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.